Welcome to New to You Show. This is a mini episode, one segment episode. I'm not allowed to say off week, so that will be stricken from the blog. We're always on. This is another on week.
Every week is
right. This is a one segment show, one of our mini episodes.
We're playing with format and trying to figure out what it's called.
So, in this episode, I wanted to bring to the table a little card game called Love Letter. It's actually a Japanese designed card game printed in the US by AEG. And they have an original like wood block print looking version coming out soon. But this version that you can get at a local game store or online is, pretty standard little courtier illustration character things. Comes with a little velvet bag and some wooden blocks and 16 cards. Very simple game for 2 to 4 players. A simple deduction game that has some deep strategy and a lot of good play. Mm-hmm. So Mary and me both found this game together.
Mm-hmm. Was that the first time you had played it too?
Yeah, because I read about I read about it on Board Game Geek. I'll put a link to it so people can see it and I'll put some pictures up of like what the different versions look like. But again, it was designed by a Japanese designer, game designer, and refined a little bit and then released here in the US. Very elegant, simple game with a lot of depth.
And so John and I bought this when we were visiting my family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this was a great game to play with the family. With it's up to 4 or 5 players.
Up to 4 players.
Okay, so four players just sitting around the table. When we go visit my family, we tend to have time and can just sit around the table all afternoon. My brother and my mom really enjoyed playing this with us. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those games that's really addictive. You can just keep playing it. Right. It's very easy and fast.
It doesn't seem like it's much of a commitment,
Right.
So many, especially, John's been recommending games to me for a really long time, and I really appreciate them, but a lot of them require a long time, big setup, a long time, big commitment. And this game seems to be just free flowing, pretty quick. You're in, you're out.
Yeah. So Keith, what do you think of Love Letter?
I enjoyed it. It's it's not exactly my thing, but I could see playing it with more people would. The interesting thing is it's so simple and there are so few rules, so there's so many ways to implement them and. But at the same time, it's a luck of the draw, and that always has mixed results. It's kind of fun. It's very fun. Yeah. And what I like about it is it's such a simple game that anybody could just make this. If you get the rules, you could just make your own set. I mean, I'm not suggesting people do that. Unless they just want to. I'm not trying to take business away from the guys, but I just think it's a fun idea.
And people have made I've seen Game of Thrones variants.
Yeah, it's legal, isn't it, to do that? Like it's not a.
Well, here's the deal. There's this sort of gray area where game mechanics can't be copyrighted or something. Mm. So like theme can be intellectual. Like there's a lot of property within a game
based on the imagery and whatnot.
So like you can say like for instance Magic the Gathering. You can't say tap or tap for mana in any other card game. They've got a lock on that. And so
you can't say tap?
Right.
Wow.
So you can't tap that for blah, blah, blah. It's, that is something that can be copyrighted or whatever. Like it can be.
But when you're playing blackjack and you tap your cards, that means hit me. So I don't know who owns that.
But you aren't saying tap my card.
Onomatopoeically, you are with your table.
You're just tapping it. Well, you aren't saying the word, so they can't copyright. Well, I guess they could copyright the sound effect too.
I'm just kidding.
But that's the thing. Mechanics are not.
I think it's called trademark when you.
Yeah,
get a specific phrase.
So the mechanics, you can't lock down mechanics is the issue, or it's hairier. There's some stuff where if you make a game that's technically Monopoly, nobody's going to do anything about it. At this point, one, because the rights have expired already, it's already like
You just can't call it Monopoly or
Right.
Hasbro, whatever.
Right.
It's
Barker
Hasbro,
Brothers.
it will go.
will come down on you.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, again, we're not criminal experts or lawyers in copyright law or anything, but from what little I know, people have made variants. You could make variants with different text, and you probably wouldn't even bother printing them because, again, this game is so simple, someone could just make it themselves. So usually what you'll see is people posting online the images of Adventure Time that I've made, the Adventure Time version of this, or their own designed cards for this game. But I would recommend, even if you're doing that, support AEG, support the game designers, and go out and pick it up.
Cheap. It's
I mean,
it's
yeah.
really cheap.
And
And,
it's-
I wasn't suggesting, trying to circumvent
Right.
that. I was just saying that it's I love anything that could get a little crafty like
Right.
that.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, there are some games like Werewolf is a good example where I never owned a werewolf set. Initially, we would just play with a pack of cards, because you just hand off, you put face cards in there. Every jack is a werewolf. Every queen, the queen is the fortune teller, or the ace is the fortune teller or something. Right. And then all the number cards are villagers. And that's how people know who they are. You don't need the sets, but then the sets are fun. They're nicely designed. There's no reason. I kind of like picking them up myself because sometimes they have variant rules or variant like roles that you wouldn't see in a normal
It's
thing.
neat to see how different people play this game that everybody plays too. What there was a version of some game where it wasn't called the fortune teller. It was called something else. I can't remember, but it was like the witch doctor or something like that.
And, there's Mafia, which is basically werewolf.
Yeah.
It's just different role names and stuff. But so just how this game, going back to Love Letter, how the game works is you have 16 cards. And what you do in a 4-player game, say, which is your standard kind of good group number to play with, is you deal out everyone one card, and then you take one card and you put it face down off to the side. So now there are 15 cards in play. There are 10 on the stack, like 10 in the draw pile in the middle, and 1 in each person's hand. And nobody knows what the out card is. And in those cards, the goal is the theme of the game in this themed version is there's the princess and you're trying to gain her favor. And you play multiple rounds, and each round what you're trying to do is kind of either use your cards to get other people out, or use your cards to at the end, like to keep yourself in as long as you can. So at the end, you can put down your card and compare against everyone else, and whoever has the highest card wins the favor of that turn. And once you win enough rounds, I think you win 5 rounds in a 4-player game, you win that game and you can play again. And each round takes, 5 to 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And an important aspect of the game too is because there are so few cards, there's a major part of the strategy is trying to figure out who's holding which cards.
Right.
And so there's a lot of, kind of MacGuffins that you might want to try to throw down to throw other people off your trail if they think you have a certain card. And each card affects the other players if you deal it down. So,
and the cards have great interaction too. So you'll have a card. Basically, what happens is on your turn, you draw a new card, and you have to play one down. So you could have in your hand the Countess. And
let's just say the hand is one card.
Is one card. Mm-hmm. So then you draw a new card, and now you have 2 cards, and you have to pick which one you're going to use. If you have the Countess, she's worth 7. She's 7. She's the second highest card. So when it comes to the end of the game, or the end of that round rather, and you're putting your card down, only one other card, the Princess, who's worth 8, can beat her. So you want to hold on to the Countess. The problem is if you pull the King or the Prince, you have her card. Her only rule is she can't be in your hand with the King or the Prince.
Yeah. So each of the cards have little rules printed on them. Just one line, simple rules, and you have to do basically what.
And you'll find yourself in a situation where you have the King in hand, and the King's rule says you play him to exchange your hand with another player. Now, if you have him and then you draw the princess's rule is if you discard or place down this card, you lose the round. So now you have a card in hand that if you place it down, you're going to lose.
Right.
You have a card in hand that says,
Right.
trade this card, trade your hand with the other person. So you're about to trade away a game-winning card.
But that can be good because, as we've learned, the princess can be really dangerous to have because once you trade her, then you know that whoever you traded her to has the princess. So if you get a card like the guard that lets you name or guess what somebody else has, and if you guess correctly, they're out, then you get that person out.
Yeah. So, I mean, the theme is a little fluffy for people who like, fighty, hardcore themes.
Yeah, but I gotta say, my brother, he's college age, totally into, video games, action, movies, stuff like that, and
South Park and all the good fun stuff.
but he loves this game.
Yep. I mean, it's simple and clean.
I mean, it's not like the theme really has much to do with it.
Yeah.
It's really the interaction between the cards.
Right.
That's the game. I mean, you could call it, Royal Shuffle. It doesn't matter what it's called.
Yeah.
It's still just how you play the one card off the other.
And
people.
and the fun thing about it too is, especially with like more people, you are targeting one another. Like who are you going to make discard? Like who's looking suspicious? There's a level of bluff. There's a level of, so you did that, so that means you have that kind of stuff going on, or you're about to win, so I got to make sure. Like you get targets. There's a level of politics within it that aren't too complicated, that you aren't just playing the game still, but are there enough to kind of give it a little more meat and also make it a little more fun. You have some table talk and some oh man situations are like, gosh darn, like
Stop picking on me.
this
Yeah.
Man, I got the worst combination, like I got the king and princess and it's the last card, so the last play of the game is me giving you this round.
Yeah, and it's not like there aren't many opportunities to really be very mean, I guess. Like some games that can rub people the wrong way if they're really competitive or something, and they don't play a lot of tabletop games. Because I played games with you, John, where like Carcassonne, where you just go after my take over my castles and things like that.
That's like competitive version of Carcassonne.
I'm fine with that, but I'm just saying, people who are new to tabletop games sometimes get a little bit like.
Well, one of the good
feelings.
things about this, I think, going along with the hurt feelings, is that each round is so fast that you don't ever really feel like.
Yeah.
You could lose 3 rounds and
Right.
it doesn't even feel that bad, like you're doing poorly.
And well, that's the thing too. 20, 30 minutes, you've finished an entire game. You start another game. It's. I think, it's along the lines of playing, like when we were younger, we used to play spoons or, hearts or any sort of like card game with a standard deck of cards. And it just flows and it's fun. And it's just sort of like you're sitting there at a rainy table with family playing cards. Yeah. And this has that feel, but it's not like just not as long and not as much sort of math going into it. It's just a little more elegant. And the randomness is polite. Like you can read out the randomness in there. It makes it so it's not easily deductible. Like you can't deduce everything. There's a level random. Like if you're going to try to pick who should you do, there's optimum plays, but nothing perfect. It's not a perfect game. It's not like checkers where if you really know what you're doing, if you go first, you should never lose. That sort of thing. Like this is a different kind of game where there are strategies to win, but you're not always going to win, kind of thing.
Well, I mean, sorry, Mary.
Oh no.
With most card games, that's the thing. It's like you can be the most skilled poker player,
right?
But it's the luck of the draw. It's the cards are gonna tell you.
Well, at a certain point too, that's with poker, especially. That's part of the skill is not going on tilt because you're losing, knowing how to play. Like for the long haul.
I heard you got to know when to hold them and then know when to fold them, know when to walk away and know when to run.
I heard if you sing that song, you'll die on a train.
You never count your money when you're sitting at the table.
That's what killed Janis Joplin. She was on a peace train, and she sang that song, and she choked on a ham sandwich. Choked on a ham sandwich.
Aces and eights. Is that what happened? Her last hand was aces and eights. Mm-hmm. Full house.
Yep. She saw the sign and it opened up her eyes.
That's
Aces and eights.
So that's what happens if you play cards. You die. So
Yep.
So go play cards. People.
Yeah, go play Love
Yeah.
Letter, because they'll at least only live 30 minutes.
That's right.
Just like Janis Joplin.
Yeah. So again, Love Letter is available probably at online game stores. You can read more about it. I'll put a link
We
to
got
the
it
Board
at a
Game Geek.
friendly local game store
Yeah, in South
called
Carolina.
Boardwalk in Greenville.
I've seen it at the local game store in Brooklyn here, and I'd recommend picking it up. I recommend checking out the rethemes
Of
and
course
making
you
your own
would. That's
versions.
what you've been doing for the last 10 minutes.
I know,
or so.
I know.
You've been recommending picking it up.
But I'd
Are
say
you gonna
this
change your
is
mind
this is
at the last
also
minute of
just
the
a
podcast?
super easy game for all ages, and it's definitely cross generational. I don't know, maybe not like infants or anything, but
We haven't
you know.
played it with a very young
Well,
person.
I have a
yet.
question. How long did it take of playing this before you guys were really in the flow and didn't have to keep rereading the rules and things like that? I mean,
I think by well, first off, so the game comes with a little card that
Yeah,
says,
a little cheat card.
here are how many cards there are
Right.
of these things, and here's what they do. I'd say maybe after 2 or 3 games, like we knew it all. And two or three games,
full games. How many rounds was that? Do you think?
I don't even know. I mean, that's like an hour
Yeah,
or
okay.
less. We were like, we didn't have to cheat sheet at all.
Yeah, I would say it was less than that
Yeah.
because the rules. There's a little rule book, but you barely even need to.
I mean, really,
you
just
only
consult
need
the
to look
rule
at
book
that.
for setup.
Yeah, and
like,
that
how
just
many players do
says-
we have? How
yeah,
many cards do they get? Blah
exactly.
blah blah. You know, how much to win. Those are the only sort of like, what? Wait a second, kind of things.
I,
Yeah.
I still have to look at the cheat sheet to know, like, wait, how many priests are there again?
Yeah,
If I'm gonna
yeah.
make a call that could maybe lose me or win me the round, then I'm gonna verify with
Right.
the cheat
So
I mean, but-
even still.
But that's
Yeah.
pretty. So it goes like, I mean, of the 14 cards, there are 5 guards. Those are the most prominent. There are 2 priests who are worth 2, 2 barons who are worth 3, 2
Handmaidens.
handmaidens who are worth 4, 2 princes worth 5, 1 king, 1 countess, 1 princess.
And John does not have a cheat sheet in front of him, so I guess he doesn't
Right.
have to refer to the cheat sheet.
You know,
He's
and
wicked smart.
I'm
yo.
wicked fracking smart. But yeah, so it's not a
My boy's wicked smart.
don't quote that movie.
Come on. That's what I'm recommending. You can recommend Love Letter. I'm going to recommend
You're the man now, dog. That's what you're gonna
Finding
recommend?
Forrester.
Yeah, that's another
No.
Boston-based movie about a
Yeah.
guy who writes on a chalkboard. Yeah.
How about them apples?
What? Yeah, that's what he says. You're the man with apples.
Oh,
now."
what? We're doing apples to apples now? I thought
Yeah.
this was Love Letter.
So yeah, that should be for another episode. Apples to apples, but probably not. Everyone's probably played apples to apples.
Everybody knows apples.
You mean
So-
Cards Against Humanity?
Yeah, exactly. That's the new version. So again, Love Letter, printed now by AEG. If you can get your hands on the limited edition that they're coming out with pretty soon here, you should try to do it. Just because the art looks really cool. I'll try to put a link up to that. But the game's real simple, real fun. Again, great 2-player game. Just kind of bouncing off one another on it. You can
Better
play
more though.
better with 4. I think
Better
3 is
3
pretty
or 4.
good.
Better. It's
But it's a kind of game where you could sit and play it on a plane.
yeah.
You know, it doesn't take up much real estate in terms of like board space. You just don't need it's probably even too light for an iOS type game. Like I wouldn't see it really being, it wouldn't be as enjoyable in that
I
form.
will say Mary whooped me at this game.
Yeah.
Like, just flat out.
It
Well,
was
but
all luck,
she's
though,
but
and-
she's played it a lot more too. So because there's a certain amount of like, okay, so I know to do this. Like when we're playing, we'll go, hey, this is the guard. The first guy, you know, deductively, the first guy I should say is, do you have the princess? No. Okay. Do you
necessarily.
have the countess?
Not,
No.
not deductively. I would say guess one of the cards that there are more than one of.
Well, I think everybody's just going to have to learn their own strategy.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, you're going to tell everybody how to win. They're
Yeah.
going to beat their friends.
Here's how you win. Pay $49.99 to John Holt Enterprises. Care of Love Letter. New York, New York.
Not me. I got the White
10011.
Dragon card.
Yeah.
Cost me $300.
Yeah.
Magic cards.
Exactly. So again, Love Letter from AEG. It may not be new, but hopefully it's new to you. Actually, it's pretty new, but you should you should check it out. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you very much. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
All right. Thank you, Mary.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to check out the Twitter and the site, newtoyoushow.com.
newtouyoushow.com, and you can see us on Twitter at new2you. You can find
New
me
to
on
You Show.
Twitter. Oh yeah, New to You Show.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho. You can find Mary
Varn.
Mary
At Mary
Varn.
Varn.
And you can find her comic at,
npccomic.com.
and you can find Keith
On Tumblr, you can see all my
Oh,
funny cartoons on
what's your Tumblr, Keith?
earthlingkeith.tumblr.com.
You guys should check it out because Keith is amazeballs illustrator.
And there are many possible answers, such as hard work.
Years ago, the Holy
Feel I'm alone in this whole of existence. I know it takes time, but I'm losing my persistence. The distance is too far to fetch, so I sketch on pages and hope that some catch the thoughts of my inverted worded music. No trial.